Something's happening. YouTube has connected. Ladies and gents, please welcome, getting belted with me. He's a hell of a G. He's Bella the Ball. It's John L of the Sea. Woo!
That was really weird. But that was good. I still liked it. I knew it was fake, but
I thought of it earlier, you know, when I was getting ready, and I thought, I'll surprise him with this little sort of shit rap.
Smashed it. I was trying to make the chat jump out on. I can't see the chat at the moment on YouTube, so I'm going to shut it.
Kick in a minute.
I can't see.
How are you doing? How's your week been?
Really good week actually. Working hard. I work in vaping, as only viewers of this show would know, and everybody on my other side of doing things. And we imported some things in from China, and they went really well. Which is it's a gamble sometimes.
My week has been.
How's your week been?
My week's been all right. Yeah, I've been working hard. I started a new job recently, so that's been taking up a lot of my time, as you would expect.
Is that a new job or just a new job? Or is that the same new job?
When did I start? 2 months ago.
Oh yeah, no, that's the same new job.
So it's so that's cool. It's all moving along quite nicely, and trying to think like what else is. I don't think anything interesting has happened to me or my family at all for longer than a week or two. Like the last thing was there was a suspected couple of COVID cases in my son's class, but that's old news now.
It's very. I mean, it's not fashionable at the moment to get COVID.
No,
so
it's funny how far we've come. With do you remember when it was coronavirus rather than COVID, and then it was like COVID-19, and now it's just oh yeah, we've got a couple of cases of COVID in our class. But like right at the beginning of the pandemic, everyone was so freaked out and overzealous about it, and now I just feel like the wind.
I don't think it's overzealous. I think it's correctly scared of a contagious and deadly virus. I think that's fine. I'd rather people overreact.
I agree that you should be very, very vigilant, and that the danger hasn't gone away, and we're definitely still within the grip of a pandemic. But I just mean like societally.
Not as much now, but I meant at the beginning. I don't think that's overzealousness. I think it's fine.
Fine.
It's quite...
overzealous is probably the wrong word.
I was going to say, I find it weird that the advice now, people have actually just forgotten it. My friend got COVID the other week. No, a few months ago, and it was really bad, like you. It's just after you'd had it, actually. And I said, don't forget, it's easy to, don't forget, don't take ibuprofen. And he went, why don't you take ibuprofen? I said, no, you can't. Don't do that. Just take paracetamol. That's one of the guidelines. You sure that's still a thing? I don't think that changes, mate. I think it's the same. I think don't take it. Just take paracetamol. Oh, all right then. I never knew. We have never known another illness where people are it's become so every day that people are like, I forgot most of the rules now.
I mean, that's sort of what I'm getting at, really, is that societally, we, like, culturally now, we've taken our foot so far off the gas. Like, people do, like, I went into London yesterday and no one was fucking wearing a mask, and all the pubs and restaurants were fucking rammed, and people were just like, squeezing past each other and breathing on each other. And it's like, I know we have to get back to normal. And there's a part of me, if I'm really brutally honest, it's like, I missed this. I missed the hustle and bustle, but I'm also like, this feels really dangerous. Like, are we just pretending this doesn't exist now? Or?
I think that is what it is. I saw there was a figure came out yesterday, because when you tell people, you should really wear a mask, they've always kind of tried to chuck it in your face, but actually peer-reviewed bit came out yesterday saying it is your chance of catching COVID drops by 53%, like in a room with people with masks on. So you half it by wearing a mask. You think that's good. That's a good. Some people go, fuck it then. 50-50.
I was listening to talk radio this morning. Was it this morning or this afternoon? I think. And there was some guy on there. I think he was a guest on Mikey Graham's show, and he was just being really simplistic about mask wearing and about left-leaning personalities and faces like being you and I are, where we would say, well, you know, it would be good if you wore a mask because you'll cut transmission, and it's better like if you are infected or you are passing it on to people, it's better if you wear a mask because they're less likely to breathe it in, and so that's the decent, courteous thing to do. That's where we're coming from on it. But this guy on talk radio was just like, well, you know, I hear a lot of these lefty voices, and you know, they're always telling us about the science. They always come back to us to listen to the science. Well, you know, one minute you're telling us that kids can't get COVID, and the next minute you're saying you got to send them all back to school wearing masks, little children wearing masks. You know, you tell us science, and now you're telling us this. Like, you know, President Biden's been double jabbed, but yet he's still walking around wearing a mask. And I'm like, oh my fucking Christ! Like, we're over 18 months into this now. Like, how are these people still this fucking... I was screaming at my car radio going like, because you're not going to transmit it so easily. You fucking bellend.
There's a kind I remember years ago, right? If you hear this in isolation, it doesn't make any sense at all, which was somebody said, I can't remember who the interview was with, and they said, the trouble that a lot of people have got is that the truth leans left. And I was like, well, no, the truth is the truth. And then I was like, the truth can't leak. No, okay, no, it makes sense. Because there's no because like that prat, if you take that in isolation, oh, bloody lefties going about masks. What? That's got nothing to do with leaning left or socialism or anything like that. What the fuck are you on about? And then you go, oh, no, I get it. No, I know what you mean now. What you're actually meaning is that these people who just, what they do is they go out and they try to find what is the reality of a situation. And then all they do, because the truth and maths and physics don't change, all they do is they repeat those things. And then somebody goes, oh, that's your opinion. No, it's not. It's not my opinion.
Yeah.
I couldn't give a shit. I'm telling you, this is what this says.
It is that, but I think it's also people, whether you're talking about masks or if you're talking about a refusal to get jabbed, or if you're talking about burying your head in the sand about something like Brexit, I think whatever the divisive topic is, there is roughly about half the population who are actually willing to stand there and say, no, I'm not getting on board with that because it's inconvenient to me right at this moment. And it is as simple as that. It's inconvenient for them to wear a mask. It's inconvenient for them to bother to go and get the jab. And maybe there's a bit of ego to it as well. Like, they like to feel like they're a freedom fighter. Like, no, you can't force me to take a jab. I will stand up against this tyranny. And it's the same with like the EU and the masks and the jab.
But if you accept, but we can even make this like ridiculous. So the more you kind of expand on it, the more stupid it becomes. So somebody was saying the other day that there was a fishmonger walking. I can't remember if she was now London. It could have been one of the other major cities. I got a feeling it was London, and she had a cart full of fish that we normally export, that doesn't sell here. One of them being cuttlefish, and another one being a fish called gurnard. So we sell a lot of gurnard to the French, and places like Dorset, we have lots of gurnard. They're really easy to catch, but they're a pain in the arse to chop up and fuck. But anyway, French people love them. Cuttlefish are weirdly uglier than squid. They taste, you'd never tell the difference. If you fried it up, it'd be fine. And she was saying to people, do you know what this is? And they would go, I don't know what that is. What's that? That's a cuttlefish. What's a cuttlefish? No, it's like a squid, you know. And then again, and this is a gurnard, right, which is an orange fish. That's all it is. It's a fish, but it's orange. And people are going, I don't know. What do you mean? Lick it. But do you know what the weird thing is? You could then, in a few years, like, if that person was then... if we turn that into, so we know Brexit's happened, we know we can't change it, and we go, okay, so maybe it's a good idea that we start eating these fish because these people they're going to catch them anyway, and they're going to die because we're going to drag them up from the seabed, and their swim bladder will explode. So you might as well eat them. And you were going on about British jobs for British people, and they'll go, I don't want any of your bloody lefty gurnard. Yeah. No. What? It's like, what the fuck? You've said. This is the situation, and we're going, okay, let's work with it. We need to eat these orange fish. I'm not eating any of your bloody
what they would actually
fish.
What they would do is they would say that that's what Europeans eat. They'd be like, I'm not eating that shit. Like, that's what, weren't you selling that to France before? Yeah, well, I don't want that fucking frog bullshit. Yeah.
Dirty bastard. That's such an odd thing that there's like that you could make a fish political.
Well,
Like,
you know,
it doesn't make any
don't rule
sense.
it out, because if it's the choice between seeing like 10,000 tons of fish dumped somewhere and watching them rot while waving a fucking flag and pretending that there's some point to be made there about patriotism, then they'll do that rather than eat the thing that was destined to go to the European mainland. I've got no doubt about it.
I find it just a gobsmack. It's like the French. Every time I've tried to explain the French blockading fishing ports, they're like, "Oh, they're stopping them land." I go, "No, they're delaying it because they can just drop the box price." What do you mean? I said, "Well, think of a fish market like a stock market. The fish, it's worth more the faster you get it in, right? And so if you knock the box price down, the fishermen won't want to land it there because there's no point because they'll get blocked. They get held outside for 2 days and." 2 days box
How
fish.
dare you
it's in a
come
hole
on
and it's
here
cold.
with your common sense, logic, time frames? I don't want to hear any of that fucking lefty logic. I'm
bloody
bloody
Frenchies.
This is the thing though, like
fishermen.
you can't communicate that sort of logic and sense to somebody like for example Mikey Graham, or like the callers that he gets to his show, because it's too complex. What they need is a simple story that involves good versus evil. And the right, this is why I think like the left has the logic, because the right will serve that up to them in spades. They'll just say the EU are evil, they're an overarching
And they're literally trying to make it sound like that these fishermen are almost kidnapped, that they're blocked in, and they're like, no, right? They're the blockade. It's not like what you think. They just don't want to bash their boat. If you're a British fisherman, you've got a trawler, you don't want to get a fucking hole in it. So they're not going to just rush forwards. It's pointless. And the French don't want to hurt anybody. They just want to drop your price down so that you get what you're. They feel that your government are taking the piss, and they're going to teach you a lesson, but hit you in the wallet.
Yeah,
that's all they're doing.
But they won't hear any of that. Like all they'll hear is just the arrogant French and the evil EU, and you know.
I know. I think one of the last times I was on with you, Aid, I think they'd done. Oh no, maybe it was some. I can't remember. The British press were making out that we were sending a frigate out to like Jersey, and I was like, no, it's just a patrol boat. Oh, they've got guns on it. No, they haven't. What do you think they're going to do? Rake the fucking French trawlerman with a minigun? Like, just take him?
Yeah.
No. And they were like, we should send the fucking HMS fucking Queen Elizabeth's bumhole out there. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Why not?
I mean, but that's the thing. Like, they would love that shit. They're so drunk on like Blitz Spirit and like the Red Arrows and fucking like pints of ale and this sort of. There's I suppose the cliche that's wheeled out among left-leaning circles is that they idealize and fantasize about this dreamy Great Britain period that actually never was. Like if you go back to
I do agree it's never happened. And the other thing, I don't know how I think you'll go along with me on this. A couple of times it's come up on TikTok, particularly when people have gone, "Why do you call yourself lefty?" No, I don't. You did. So I turned in Kurt Skid and went, okay, I'm lefty then. Because you're just doing that. I'm just saying this is what I think is fine. And you think that sticks within that centre of things. So fine, that's fine. So all I've actually done is take your ammunition away. So I really don't care. I really don't care. Just call me John. It's a lot more simple.
Is this
lefty wanker? John, simple. One syllable.
Like that Eminem song, like the concept behind the Eminem song, "The Way I Am." I think it's that one anyway, where he says, like the premise of it is basically like whatever you say I am, that's what I'm going to be 110% like to you. So if you say that I'm annoying or blah blah blah, I'm going to go out of my way to be really fucking annoying to you. So
you definitely do that as well. If somebody says, if I know, I once said to my wife, somebody said. That they were. I was being particularly annoying, because her husband had just said, "Did you see that program the other day about the moon?" I said, "Oh, what was it about?" And they said, "Oh, we didn't actually land on the moon." I really just can't be bothered. It was really, really boring. I know you think it is. It's really cliche and it's really, really stupid. And I'll just tell you now, we have the technology to land on the moon, but we didn't have the technology to fake landing on the moon. Right? It's that simple. I know you just saw a lot of wank about it, and I don't mean to be dismissive, but I just don't want to have the conversation because I feel I'll be thicker by the end of it. So can we just end? And his wife then said, she just really curtly said, do you know what? I'll be honest, I've never liked you. And I went, excellent. And then when we left, my wife said, that you didn't even flinch. And I said, oh no, that was before, that was me trying. Now all the rules are gone. Like, I don't give a fuck anymore. Like, because I already didn't fucking like you, but I had the good grace not to tell you. You've done it. You've done it now. If you thought I was bad before, fuck it. Nothing to lose. You don't like me anyway. I don't give a shit.
I suppose it's sort of. I think we've touched on this before. I don't think it was in a podcast. I think it was when we were voice noting about something, and I was saying to you how like there was a group of people that me and my girlfriend sort of became friendly with, and I just felt like all of the guys in the group. This is probably like my own insecurities that are coming out with bashing symbols here, but like I just felt like whenever I talked to any of the guys, they weren't really interested in anything I had to say. They were just sort of being polite, nodding along. None of them ever seemed sort of like pleased or excited to see me. And like I remember saying this to you before. I was like, and that's fine. Like, you don't have to, like, nobody has to. I'm not expecting everyone to be like, oh my God, it's Zaid. Oh, it's amazing to see. But equally, like, in reciprocation of that, you can't expect me to then fucking rearrange my plans to go and hang out with them and like, oh yeah, but please, can I come and see this cunt again? That's obviously not interested in a fucking word I have to say. Like, so it's kind of like, you know, you don't have to like me or listen to me, but equally, I'm.
Because you're not a laddie lad either. So I always get that. Like if somebody starts, and they can feel it coming off me as well. Like I very rarely get asked about football. Everybody just assumes immediately it's like there's no way that likes football. No, like I don't need to say it. I'm not going to like football. So it doesn't come up. But yeah, I would see one of a mutual friend of ours. Bedhead on TikTok. He's recently done videos about what it's like being over 30 and not seeing your friend. But I kind of have like a polar opposite thing with that, whereas I cannot see a very good friend of mine for like 15 years, and then because that's the way it works. They don't go, so they're doing this, or we've got other shit going on, or whatever. But when we do, it's like there's no pause, nothing. It's just back in the room, everything's exactly the same. My mate, I was at a funeral a couple of years ago. My mate did the most brilliant thing. I think he kind of knew I'd be the kind of person who'd like it. We were stood there, just chatting, having a drink after the funeral and that. And I felt he's a fucking massive monster, this my mate Joe. I felt a hand grip me in my bicep and give my arm a squeeze. And I looked at him and he went, just checking you're real. It's fucking brilliant. That was all he did.
Yeah.
And it was really lovely. It was like, all right, mate. Because, you know, I hadn't seen him in 10 years.
No, that's nice.
Our mate had died, so we go back, you know, you just put yourself together.
I think, so I've got a couple of mates like that, and we used to call each other like grufties. That was the word back in the day. It was like you've got mates, and then you've got mates of mates and different circles of friends and periphery figures and all that stuff. But your grufties are your like hardcore like BFFs who you can literally just sit back with a beer, not say a fucking word to them almost, but it's just, you know, there's no pressure. It's just, you know, you can always phone them up and get smashed together, and it doesn't matter how long it's been. I'm still confident now. You know, I could phone them up and then go and grab a beer, and it would be like no time has passed at all. We just pick up where we left off.
Yeah, I think that, but I think as well, I think there's an acceptance to that as well. Because I've never had like, I'm not one of those people with like 20 mates. I'm just not.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it doesn't really make any difference. I'll see somebody when I see him, and it falls straight back into place. And I'm fine with that. I think that's the thing about being 40 is that I don't. Oh, right.
Yeah, I think that's an important point too. Is it's sort of when you're younger, you obviously catch up with your friends a lot more often. Then when you get to sort of 40, 41, you see your friends less often. But you're sort of so relaxed by that point that kind of catching up with everyone all the time, like every week, it's kind of like I don't give a fuck too much anymore. But it's also a little bit of like, you know, it doesn't matter
That's
if
like,
it's 5 years or 10 years or so. Like most of my, like the two guys I was talking about earlier, my grufties, if you like, neither one of them have children. And that's caused quite, like, I don't see them really ever now as a direct result of me having kids. But I think that sort of amplifies it.
yeah,
Like,
but
then when I do see
yeah,
them, you know?
I can see that on the other side because we don't have kids. So I'm on. I could kind of go, yeah, yeah. One of my best female friends. I won't say her name, just in case she ever goes. I want to see what John's up to. But I rarely see her. We have a tradition where on New Year's Eve we always send each other a evening Ben. We always send each other a message. Like we've
Yeah.
always sent each other a message. Like it started when the text message. Do you remember when the phone
Yeah.
system collapsed on New Year's Eve? Like about 11 o'clock till about 1, it would collapse, and then the messages would come in like for hours and hours and hours. So the tradition was I'd normally send her a message about 3 o'clock in the afternoon on New Year's Eve and just say, before the networks get busy, blah, 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 blah. And it's just carried on for like 20 years. We'd send each other a message on New Year's Eve. But it doesn't really matter that we don't see each other. But that's the kid thing. But it's them. We don't see them because they've got kids and they can't leave the house and you know, et cetera, et cetera. And
yeah, I think it's you almost have to, like, you as the parent, you have to make 100 times the effort and arrangement and all that shit to go and catch up with these people. But then it also takes a lot of organization on the people who don't have kids. And then as the parent, you feel like I feel guilty getting people who don't have kids to then make their arrangements around us.
They don't really mind. I honestly, just from our side of things, we don't mind. I don't like the an ex-boss of mine.
Can you?
I once. It doesn't matter. It's YouTube.
Oh, right,
call him a cunt. Because we were talking about something, and he said, the thing is, John, you wouldn't understand. And I went, go on, finish it. I wouldn't understand because I haven't got kids. I know what you mean, because I don't understand what kids are. I actually drowned one the other day. Just haven't got one. I didn't know what you do with them. So we were just walking past, I just threw it in a drain, and it scrambled around a bit and dunked it till it stopped. You're not supposed to do that. And he went, and I said, the thing is, it's just such a cliched piece of bullshit. It's just total nonsense.
Well, it is.
Really is.
Like there's.
You never say that. You know, when somebody says it about a teacher, I always think, are you a dipshit? Like, that woman's got like 20 years experience with 5-year-olds, and you've gone, you wouldn't understand. It's like, oh my God.
I mean, so when people say shit like you won't understand until you have one of your own, like that sort of stuff, I understand where you're coming from. Like, there's a lot that you can understand when you don't have a kid, but there is something about the dynamic of having something that you are 100% responsible for, that if you fuck up, it's like permanent trauma and damage to them, and you have to protect them, and you have to, like, and all the responsibility that goes around looking after these two little creatures of love.
But if you go down that route, though, then you end up with nutbags who think they've got a fur baby.
But that's true.
Yeah, see, which I don't get called that. If somebody goes, oh, is that your dad? That's a dog.
Yeah.
What? You just call me the dog's dad. I'm not the dog's dad. Her dad is a dog. I've never seen it. I guarantee you it's a dog.
We've spent some time talking about sort of, you know, close friends and grufties, and this sort of leads me clumsily through segue to a person who doesn't appear, I'm going to say this confidently, doesn't appear to have too many, like, best friends. Like, does Boris Johnson have best friends?
Yes.
Really?
They're all called like Mifty and Bloxham and stuff.
I don't know if he does. Like, I've never heard anything about him being, like, super chummy, like Bezzy Buds.
But who's David Cameron's best friend?
I think him and George Osborne were actually pretty close, weren't they?
Yeah, but you don't know, do you? Don't have. We don't have to go politics anyway. We've got to.
David Cameron was very close with Rebecca Brooks and her husband Charlie. What's his name again? I can't remember his surname. But they were.
I don't know.
They were all pretty chummy.
Rebecca Brooks, she must just think every day. I think she now uses Piers Morgan as a swear word.
Well, like, because he didn't get done for hacking.
Because he should have gone down. Almost definitely. Him going, what? No, I didn't know anything about it. Did you not?
Let's talk about Boris Johnson's bad week, because I'm itching to get this off my chest. Mm-hmm. And it has been a hell of a stink. I mean, we all have bad weeks. I've had a few of them dotted throughout my life, but I don't think I've ever had a situation where let's reel through some of the fucking greatest hits of the last 7 days. So Monday, there was the hangover from the corruption scandals, like the last 14 days of headlines, basically about all of the Tory corruption, the lobbying. And
some added, I think, by Monday. I think we'd got new names, hadn't we?
Yeah, so there was, originally it was Geoffrey Cox, wasn't it? And then, originally it was Patterson, then it was Geoffrey Cox, and then there was this sort of like...
Michael Gove, just one after the other, basically.
So then Tuesday, as a result of his nod of approval in like signing it off, Jacob Rees-Mogg was being pressured to resign over the Leadsom bill, and then Tuesday night, Labour were leading in the polls. Then Wednesday, PMQs, Boris Johnson is referred to as a disgrace by Ian Dale, who's a prominent right-wing LBC journalist, but also is very big on Twitter. Johnson gets told to sit down by the Speaker of the House. Then after PMQs, he's got the Select Committee, in which Tobias Ellwood, who's one of these sort of maybe slightly more moderate Conservatives, Tobias Ellwood gives him a fucking mauling. And it's like, so they're both Tories, but this guy's just had enough of him. He's just like, what the fuck are you doing?
He got, when Boris gets stuck with, because he's got, people do need to get into their heads that nothing that comes out of his face during something like that hasn't been written. Like, everything's been written. And he was clearly told to say the word mistake, but not say the word sorry.
Yes.
So he ends up in this weird position where he said mistake like 70 times. I wouldn't deny there's been a mistake, but we move forward.
Why?
And it's like, just say sorry. And then he just kept saying mistake.
Why is it that they can't bring themselves to say sorry? Is it a sort of like legal, makes you kind of culpable thing?
He's been... Because what you see, so I always think of Boris, when he's got the script, I honestly do believe Boris is a lot more stupid than people realise. When he's got the script, what you get is Kermit the Frog. It's not easy being green. He doesn't know who the fuck Kermit the Frog is at all. He'd never seen that piece of paper until it was in front of him. Didn't know that.
I can see that.
You get the I paint. What did you paint? The pictures, buses. What that actually was he forgot the line, right? So he was actually supposed to say, I make models of buses, but he forgot. So he said, I paint, and then he said, what do you paint? And then his brain went, that's not the line, and he went, buses. And it was like, what the fuck?
I thought that
So he doesn't know. So when he gets jammed, you get this fucking nonsense because he doesn't know where to go.
The logic from I thought the logic from the bus interview was that if you Google Boris Johnson bus, what's the first fucking thing that comes up is that Brexit bus. Yeah, and he's famous for lying and standing in front of that bus with the £350 million slogan on it. So an easy way of like overwriting that Google result was for him to sit there and say something slightly weird about how he likes to paint buses.
Well, but the point is, though, that he's got the questions before the thing starts. So the thing is pointless. It's not... If you're not having a conversation with somebody, you're reading a script. He's been given this before, because of course he has. But that's perfectly reasonable. I haven't got a problem with that. But then the answers become pointless. And at that time, he was under Dom was telling him what to say and do. So... There have been some brilliant moments in Boris Johnson's career. The things like that. He's given the line about what he had for dinner last night. What did you have for dinner last night? Steak and oven chips. He's been given the oven before the chips. He doesn't know what the fuck that means, oven chips. It's fucking mental. But he's been told that, so everything's got this like certain rhythm to it. And then you get really brilliant ones where Dom Dom said, don't get caught on live TV because you're a dipshit and you'll say something stupid. And then he hides in a fridge. That is his brain going into meltdown because Dom Dom's gone, whatever happens, you cannot ad lib. You are a dumbass. And he's gone, no, I'll talk about the future. And he's going, no, don't do that. Do not do this. And then gets doorstepped and went, fuck, and goes to the fridge.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he's one of these people, and I sort of count myself clumsily in this bracket, which is where if you put me in front of Microsoft Word or, you know, my iOS notes thing, I can write what I think is a fairly coherent, like, dare I even say witty, like, bunch of paragraphs where I'm up, like, when I used to do stand-up, I would write 3 pages of like 10 font and then be guaranteed that I'd be like, oh, wicked, okay, I'll cherry pick that bit and cherry pick that. Like, I can write coherently and articulately and make it funny. But put me on a stage and make me the MC where I have to think on my feet and react to people like in the moment. I'm Boris Johnson.
I think that we've got but then in the moment, because I know I do stage stuff sometimes too. I'm the opposite, whereas I can go on the fly. I'd much prefer to be on the fly. Though, I can see, I remember I'd got this line that I wanted to do up the creek, and I was on, and I knew I got this joke, and I got this, and it all went, and it was like, it was sort of set up punch, like all these little ones, but I needed the bomb at the end. Fuck, I haven't got it, and it was really annoying me. And then I remember where we were. Well, I'm trying to think. We were just outside Greenwich, a really nice cafe that sold fresh dough. And as I got off the bus, the back of my brain gave me the line. And as I stepped off, I shouted it. And, and my wife went, "What the fuck was that?" And I went, "It's the end of a joke." And she went, "What?" And I went, "It doesn't matter." And when it worked that night, I knew it would as well, but I just didn't. I couldn't get it. Couldn't get the end of the line. But I'm much better MC, and would just. Free, just do whatever the fuck it want.
Is this a long way of you saying that you would not have hidden in the fridge?
I definitely wouldn't have hidden in the fridge. No, I can't believe he hid in the fridge. They've won the election. You're like, that is an amazing thing to do. If Jeremy Corbyn had hid in the fucking fridge, I mean, it's ridiculous. You look at it and go, he won an election, but he hid in the fridge.
This is what
Trump wouldn't hide in the fridge.
This is what cements my feeling that the British media. It's just not fair any longer for them to say that that all they do is they reflect public opinion. They absolutely influence it, and the last 2 weeks have shown you exactly how much power and influence they have over the electorate. Because it's only since the Daily Mail have started holding the government to account.
They're not really holding to. They're not holding Boris to account at all. So it's a fake.
I don't know. I think they've done a pretty good job of. And look, I'm not a massive Daily Mail fan, but you can't ignore.
No, but they haven't. The amount of times they don't. So take today. Today was a really good example in the papers because I do like a rundown of the papers every day now. So today was a great example. So the Leeds Manchester HS2 branch had been cut. Right, which is fucking mental. It was on the front of every lefty paper. It was like, whoa, level up, all this shit. We're talking about 2 major cities. We're talking about a multi-billion-pound investment between Leeds and Manchester. Gone. And the spin doctors in the Tories clearly said to Grant Shapps and Boris, when the budgeting team went, fucking forget it. And they were like, Boris went, how are we going to sell this? And they went, say it like it's a good thing. And they were like, who the fuck is going to fall for that? And they went, they're dumb as shit. And the Grant Shapps came out and was like, good news. We're getting rid of the Leeds Manchester branch line of HS2.
I'm surprised.
That sounds like bad news, but it isn't.
Yeah.
Because I said it in a happy way. I'm surprised
they didn't find some way to turn it into a culture war thing. Like, to like say that it was originally going to be funded in euros, but you don't think that's the way forward for British infrastructure jobs should be funded in great British sterling. And then everyone would have been like, yeah, do you know what? Like, even the guys who were contracted in to work on it, who were looking forward to that 90k a year role to work on HS2, would have been like, yeah, do you know what? I voted Tory and I love Brexit. And yeah, well, them's the breaks, you know?
We've got, and then the other one, the other staring admission, right, which was crazy. So a lot of the right-wing papers today went with, look at the state of fucking Europe. COVID, mental. Well, no, like on Tuesday or something, they said, there's been 40,000 cases of COVID in Germany today. We've been doing that for weeks. What the fuck? You don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But they do it one day. Mental. They're going to kill everybody. And only the Independent pointed it out that we're all everybody's. Boris did a thing the other day where he said Europe are really struggling at the moment, but at no point did anyone go, let's shut the door. Do you know? It's just. Do you remember what happened last? Like Pretty's there going, I think they could drown a migrant. No, just shut. Say let's not let them in anymore. I clicked because I was wanted to keep it up to date, so I double checked the red list on the government website, and it said the red list is currently empty.
Yeah.
Is it? Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, is it?
But this all kind of goes back to the like British exceptionalism thing. It's like when we have 40,000 cases a day or 200 deaths a day. Then it's seen as like, well, you know, we've all got to get back to normal somehow. You know, we can't carry on. Yeah,
got to get through this.
And then when Germany get like 200 deaths a day or 40,000 cases, then it's like, oh, look at the state of Germany. Oh, I'm so glad I live in Blighty. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's really, really weird. Like Austria today have said that they're going to make it compulsory. They're going into a lockdown and they're making it compulsory to have a vaccination. And it said, first place in Europe with new draconian law. They're trying to say to people, if you're too thick to make this decision yourself, we're going to take it away. I get that. I'm bored shit.
Yeah, I mean,
let's just get this done. It's pointless. It's just ridiculous. We're, as you said, though, we're 18, no more than that now, 20 months in or something, and we're still going, no, it is pretty dangerous. I don't think it is.
What we're doing is we're allowing people to make a really important call based on their conjecture, which in any other decade or era would probably be all right. Like if this was like 1913 or something, you'd probably broadly trust what came through like the Daily Telegraph of that day, or like, you know, the King's Messenger or something. But because people have adapted and evolved to getting their news from different sources, and because the legacy media is so divided and people are so tribal, and to some extent there's a layer of Americana to this, like with anti-vax and stuff. I feel like people are like, well, they're not getting on board with vaccines over stateside. Like, are we the idiots by getting on board with that? No, maybe we'll be like America, you know?
But don't you find that, I mean, this kind of shifts on. I cannot get this in a video. I think you are the man to do this, actually, Aid. Here you go. This is the jump off point. I think you could do it better than me, definitely. I was trying to think of a way to simply put it that the rich need the poor and the poor don't need the rich. Right? That was the concept, and the concept is about credit. Like, why can I go on Amazon and buy something on 27.7 APR, right? Even though I'm Joe on the street now. I've got bad credit, but I can go on to a website and it will say, why don't you pay this in 18 monthly payments of £17 instead? It's only 32.2% APR. We're playing fast and loose with the word only, but what do you care? You can't get it otherwise.
You're an idiot. Just click here. Yeah.
Yeah. It's trying to get people to understand where that 32.2% actually goes, which is rich people. Like, they need you to do that. You are the interest on that person's bank account. You are supplementing fuckers' money. Like, if you stop borrowing, like if you don't go to DFS, don't go. We went to go buy a car the other year. We bought it. The chap selling the car said, I was kind of, something was taking a while. And so I was like, do you sell a lot of cars on credit? I was bored. And he said, oh, yeah, I sold Ford Focus yesterday. And I went, oh. And I said, do you get any of that? Like you can buy any car you want.co.uk. And he went, yeah. This woman came in with a form and it was a £4,000 Ford Focus. And he says, I'd added a little bit to negotiate off, as you do. And in the end, it was going to cost her 7,800 or something. And he went, okay, you ready to sign it? And she went, you really want the car? And she went, yeah. And then she went to go and sign it. And he went, put his hand where she was supposed to sign it and went, really?
Yeah.
This is going to cost you £7,800 over X years. He went,
but then with
and he went,
like,
okay.
Cars is an interesting one because like, so we've leased our car. And to be honest, I just wanted to buy something outright. I was like, let's just buy something so we have it, and then it's just there, and then we have more like liquid cash month on month. But my girlfriend was like, if you buy a second-hand car, it's just going to end up with like problems. You're going to have to get like the axle fixed, then we won't have a car for a week, and we've got 2 kids. So you want something reliable and then have the maintenance rolled up into payment. And I'm still a little bit like, oh, shouldn't we have just bought, like, then we would have had an extra like 400 quid a month to play with. But then when you actually work it out at the end of the lease period, it basically kind of comes out even. Like the money that you spent all rolled up in the thing, like you've spent like 15 grand or something, and you could have bought a car for 15 grand. But it's like, well, why then if you bought the car for 15 grand at the end of the 4-year period that you would have leased a car for, the car is fucking like worthless. So then we
drive into the ground.
But then
that's how it works. We get a car and then we drive into the ground and then we sell it for like tuppence. So then you get another car.
I get that. But it's like, if you're doing that, if you're spending 15 grand every 4 years, then you may as well just fucking lease a car, and then you get a nice new maintained car. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think I think there's arguments ways in those terms. But no one should be paying £8,000 for a £3,000 car.
Yeah.
And I always felt, I think somebody our age should wander around DFS on a Saturday or Sunday. And when somebody's sitting there with that smarmy twat in a cheap suit going, yeah, and actually, if you get the poof and you get the protection spray, I could probably do it for about 12 grand. You want to sit down with them and go, look, guys, just look at me. You don't know me for shit, but let me just tell you, no one gives a fuck about your sofa. No one will ever give a fuck about your sofa. Right? He's fucking lying. Go and get a sofa from a charity shop for 50 quid and fuck this guy. No one cares. And then go to Curry's and do exactly the same in the TV bit. And the guy's going, yeah, well, this one is £2,000. But if you take the Curry's special deal, we could do that for £110 every month for the rest of your life. It's going to cost you about £4,500 for a £1,000 telly. And you just want to go, no one will ever give a fuck. Just buy a TV for 50 quid. Put it up.
Yeah.
Who cares?
No, I get that. And I do think there's this, I don't know when it came in. I suspect it came in about in the late 90s, was this sort of, I'm basing that purely on the fact that that's when I first walked into like Dixon's or Curry's, but it could have existed beforehand. But from my memory, it came in around like late 90s, where you would go into Curry's, right, and you say, I want to buy this iMac, I want to buy this typewriter, or then later phones, and they would say, yeah, and if you get the Curry's like insurance warranty thingy, then we'll do it for this extra. And the reason that they do that, as you've alluded to, is that then it's an extra monthly payment that you're making to them, and it's the same with the fucking and
they could sell it. But the other thing is, it's like, I think it should be an educational movie. Everybody should go and watch The Big Short. Have you ever seen The Big Short?
Great movie. Yeah,
talks about the mortgage thing. Great movie. But not only that, it explains perfectly what that extra bit is. You know, the extra percentage bit. That's the worth, right? That debt, because it is a debt, can be optioned and sold. It exists. It's a thing. It's like all these fuckers in the last year, they said that so many people have got in trouble with stuff like hot tubs and shit on lockdown, where they've gone out and they were bored, so they spent £25,000 on a fucking hot tub and going to put it in the garden. And they're paying it off bit by bit.
Mm.
And all that shit is optioned. There's all these bonds made up of all these bits of shit, but they're all bits of shit. But they're all people who are on the poverty line. People have got no money at all. They've got no credit. I've got mates with over 30,000 in debt on shit, like total shit no one would ever care about. You kind of go around the house, they're like, have
Yeah.
you seen the TV? Yeah, oh, it's massive. Yeah, 80-inch. Why? Why the fuck have you got that telly?
I
Shit,
have
dude.
some sympathy with people who do go down the like the APR, the the 18-month pay.
No, I agree. It isn't their fault.
Yeah.
It is the seller.
Like
I hate them.
I remember when I was I must have been about 19 or 20, and I bought two things on finance. The first one was my camcorder. I got this video cam. And then the second thing was an iMac, which is why I wheeled it out in a second ago as the example. And both of those things I got as a sort of, I suppose, a sort of investment, because my friend had a Mac. It might have been too early for a G4 or whatever it was, but he had always had Macs, and he went on and on about how great they were for editing and like learning, sort of multimedia software. And I was like big into music, and I'd love to learn how to edit video and all that shit. So for me, like getting an iMac would be a dream, but there was no fucking way I could ever go to my mum and say, please, can I borrow like £3,000 to buy this like state of the art piece of kit? Yeah.
I'm not saying I haven't done it, but you didn't do it now. Like I bought, totally seriously, my housemates got married to each other. She was pregnant, they got married. I bought them their wedding rings on my credit card. I was like, don't worry about it. Put it in my credit card. And so I did that, and I had like so much shit on this credit card. And it bit me in the arse, fucking letters and shit and people wanting my money.
Yeah, it's a downhill road to chaos and depression when you sign on that dotted line and say, yeah, I will get the iMac, and I know that it's valued at like £1,900, but over the next 48 months, I like the total value of what I'm going to pay back is like 5,300. Like, and it, like,
and it'll be worth 30 quid.
But you tell yourself as you're signing on this line as a sort of broke 19-year-old kid or however old you are when you're signing on this shit to try and invest in your future or even just to get a fucking hot tub, whatever. It like you could. I remember getting that feeling as I was signing, going like, should I be signing this? I don't know if I should be, but I really want that camcorder. Maybe I could make a film with it and then pay it all back. I'm slightly paranoid about about the audio, because last week I felt so bad. Like, my guest last week was Alex Keevil from the Microdance, and we were having a really good chat about the struggles and the frustrations in the music industry that he and his band have come up against, and it was a great chat. And then the next day I watched the video of it back, and it was ever so slightly out of sync, and there were parts where like he would say something but I had already reacted to it in the audio, like sort of a second or 2 seconds before. So it was all really kind of a little bit fucked, and I think I'm just gonna have to do a lot of dry runs, a lot of practicing on the setup of this to make sure that it's perfect, because I've got a horrible feeling that it's similar. Although
the same again.
Benny's saying that the audio is all good with YouTube, so that's something. That's good.
So it doesn't slip later.
Yeah. So let's just go back to. I feel like as we always do, we've done 3 of these together now, John, and we always go off piece.
Yes.
Because we're chatters, you and I.
Yes, it's
but we were talking about Boris's bad week. So so PMQs, he was told that he was a disgrace, and he was told to sit down by the Speaker of the House, and then there was a select committee. I think I mentioned that. On Thursday, Tory MPs were forbidden from discussing his appearance in front of the Conservative 1922 committee. So this is where Theresa May was hauled in front of the 22 committee when her premiership was going south. And now this has happened to Boris Johnson also, except when Theresa May went in front of the 1922 committee, there were no there was no prohibition of like talking about it. With this, it's like you can't fucking talk to the don't talk to journalists about what you just saw. It's like it's really like it's. I would say it's like the Barbara Streisand effect of politics. It's sort of like don't come and film at my house, and then because she said don't come and film at my house, everyone comes and films her fucking house. So now everyone's talking about how he's, you know.
Yeah, I don't see them going for no confidence, and I don't see them pushing him out because people who voted for Boris, a lot of them are fans of Boris Johnson, and they are fucked if he goes with 2 years 8 months off an election. They will be if he was to go, the public will demand another election. All hell will break loose. There's nobody to cover this. If you put, say, who were the front runner previously was Dominic Raab, who's obviously sort of gone, really, effectively. So a few people have mentioned Little Sunak, but he isn't going to be the Prime Minister.
I think the Tory party are too racist to progress somebody like
me
Sunak,
too. Pretty Patel, exactly the same.
Or Sharma. Or Cleverly.
Yeah. I think they're not gonna stand for that. So I don't see where they are without Boris. I think they're gone. So they're going to put up with whatever the fuck he does because they've got no choice.
I think you're right. I think there is a lot of Tory success and Tory identity that is wrapped up in Boris Johnson's personality at the moment, and it's all rooted in the promise that he had or promise that he showed when he was guesting on Have I Got News for You and heckling Theresa May. I don't know if you remember when she was saying, she was asked in an interview what the worst thing that she ever did was, and she said something about like running through cornfields that she wasn't supposed to be in, and then the next day wheat fields, yeah. Right, and the next day he like ran through some wheat fields, sort of like theatrically kind of mocking her, like trolling her is probably a better word for it. And so people like buy into this sort of, this japery and this court jester sort of character. But the problem is, and I think Ian Dunt mentioned this in one of his articles, he said at some point, and this is going back, a year or two now, he said at some point the laughter will just stop and people will be fed up of what he brings.
If that happens, I mean, I've tried to explain the maths of the last election to Tories a lot, and honestly, I don't know why they try to argue with it. It's such an odd thing. So Boris got 1.2% more of the share of the vote than May did in her go against Corbyn. 1.2%. Yeah. And so when you call it a Tory landslide, it's ridiculous. It's not at all. What happened was first past the post. And what helped them with first past the post was the Brexit Party, who didn't run against Tory candidates. So Boris needs another party like that. If they were to go to general election again, he has to have another party like that, or you're going to end up with a near-hung parliament, which is what May had. If he goes under this shit stick that's going on at the moment, and people kind of stop finding the court jester funny, the landslide the other way will be massive because people will be voting not for Labour, but against the Tories. Because suddenly it'll be the Emperor's New Clothes. Suddenly a kid's gone, he's naked, right? And they'll go, fucking hell, they're all public schoolboy twats. And they will not be doing that. They won't vote for the Tories. So Starmer could win by default by not being Boris Johnson, which is amazing.
Which I don't even necessarily have a problem with. Like, I know everybody says, like, the cliche that people wheel out in the comment sections and against my tweets is that they say, well, Starmer has to create an identity and a public perception of Labour where it is not just, oh, we're sick of the Tories. He has to get people excited about Labour and rebrand Labour and make people really G'd up about voting Labour.
Biden didn't bother, did he? He won under I'm not Donald Trump.
Exactly. And for me, I think it's an easily dismissible retort purely on the basis that if you ask 90% of these motherfuckers why they voted Tory, then they'll say like, well, couldn't bring myself to vote Labour. Like, It's just that they're not Labour.
I laughed at Boris Johnson once.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I laughed at Thrush once. I don't mean I want it.
right, yeah. It's like, but it's this sort of this paradoxical position of like I only voted Tory because I don't like Labour, so I have to, so. But then if you switch it round, why wouldn't you vote for Labour? Well, I can't bring myself to vote for Labour, so I'll just vote for Tory. Like the two, you can't inhabit those same two positions.
I think this could be like it's boiling up for should Johnson fuck up and go, we could lose some of the Tory seats in the south that have been there for like 50 years. So it'd be brilliant. It really would be great. I mean, I live in a really agricultural area, and we've always had a Tory. It's just ridiculous. It's so weird. They don't even bother coming out because they didn't win for any other reason than they're a Tory. So they don't come out because they'll only make it worse. If anybody actually realises they're a cock, they'll be gone. So you never see them.
Yeah, I mean, I live in a town that is also a Tory stronghold, and I think the last time it flipped, it did flip Labour back in '97. I don't think I'm talking out my arse there.
The Lib Dems cannot. They won't do anything.
Well,
it's ridiculous. I don't know who the fuck he is.
Yeah, so I agree. I don't think they've got much of an electoral identity. Certainly not any brand that people would run behind, and they are absolutely the electoral embodiment of a protest vote. Because if you look at places like Maidenhead, and I think it was at Amersham, and there's like a lot of these sort of home count, like this is my sort of my stomping ground. A lot of these home counties, conservative Tory ideals. When they do flip, they flip Lib Dem. They don't flip Labour.
Yeah, like the Buckinghamshire one recently, but that wasn't really the Bucks by-election. Wasn't really what it was painted as afterwards. They won because she won. Sarah Green is a great candidate. She could have been any party, but they wanted Sarah Green because she made it local. She went, he don't fucking know anything. I'm telling you that bus station's a pain in the arse, and we need to move the pavement, and you've got to get the red line, you've got to get the yellow lines there, and we don't want dog shit. And they went, oh, fuck me, she's been here. And they voted for her. So she won. That's how they won. And the Lib Dems afterwards went, people want Lib Dems. No, they want Sarah Green. Get off.
Do you have any hope whatsoever that Labour will actually do the right thing and start working with some of the other opposition parties and be like, right? No,
it won't work with them. No, because but they're part of it's their problem as well. The Lib Dems manifesto is a piece of shit. The Greens manifesto is a joke. So the problem they've got is that there's nothing to work with, which is why I keep telling people. Somebody said, "Oh, I'm going to vote for Lib Dem," and I always do the same joke because it's kind of like the rule now. If somebody says I'm going to vote Green or Lib Dem, I go, don't do that. Look, at least draw a massive cock on your ballot paper, because then at least they're going to get a laugh out of it. If you've just written Lib Dem and they throw it in the bin, that's rubbish. But they'll have a laugh. They'll hold it up and they'll go, look, he's done the veins and there's jizz coming out the end. Look at the balls. Like, that's something. But just to waste it by writing Lib Dem on it, what's the fucking point? Yeah. Because the manifesto is a piece of shit. It's got the first 3 pages will be whatever they're banging on about now. And then the rest will be a copy and paste of a load of shit they don't know anything about. And the Greens will be even worse. And it'll be a joke.
Here's a question for you. I'm really fighting off a burp. And next time it comes up, I'm just going to let it out, just to warn you. I've done one terrible one so far on this episode, but there might well be another one. Here's a question for you. Would you, and I get asked this quite a lot, and I'll give you my answer afterwards, but would you ever consider getting into local government, like running as an MP yourself?
Here, no, because I know what it involves here. So it's not the like. I think it's your own choice. It is it's a loathsome piece of shit, and I wouldn't have a chance anyway. Even if you got in, you'd just be treated like the kid who shit themselves at school once. It just wouldn't be worth it at all.
Did you have a kid who shit himself at school?
We had a girl who pissed herself in PE, and she was called Pissy Pants forever. I still remember it now. I'm 40.
Yeah.
She was 14. So, yeah, 26 years ago, she pissed herself. I could still point at her and go, "You pissed yourself," and I know exactly where she was.
You just reminded me of like when so in my little group of friends at school, there's this really awkward moment where like I think we were all talking as young boys do. We were talking about, you know, oh, wouldn't it be cool if this happened, or wouldn't it be cool if that happened? And we were talking about girls, and we were like, you know, one of us was saying like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if like, you know, she forgot her PE kit or so, you know, and then she had to like do PE in her pants or something, like schoolboy stuff. And then like one of the
Yeah,
guys
yeah, yeah.
in our group said like, yeah, no, but like what wouldn't it be really cool if she like if she sort of like if she pissed herself. We were like, what?
It's in prison
What
now.
the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, well, they like, because then she'd be all wet, and she'd be all like, like, why did you just say like, wouldn't it be cool if it was raining? Why did piss pop
That's
in your
so.
head?
Would it be cool if she lost her shoes and then she had to wear her bare feet and she had to walk in some chocolate sauce and then get in some sprinkles and then, rub them up and down all over the. Where the
I'm a
fuck?
big,
Whoa, 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 whoa.
I'm a big fan, huge fan of like awkward conversation moments.
Oh, yeah, I love it. And I don't want to stop
No,
them either. You kind of go, carry on. Like, fuck it. You dig the hole. What?
yeah, like just like treating it like a fucking entertainment show. Like they say something awkward, and you're just like, oh no, please, don't let me interrupt you. Please.
My wife always knows when it's gone peak top. When I go, say exactly what you just said again and use exactly the same words.
Hmm.
And then she's like, oh, John's spoiling for something. And then they go, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, no, that is fucking mental. I just wanted to check what he said. You fucking deranged twat. Who says that? This is a really true story. I'll do this a very quick John story about
Yeah.
PE. Fucking mental. My friend, do you remember when handcuffs were in? Like in the 80s or 90s or something like that. Like you could buy them in Poundland and they were like American handcuffs, like real handcuffs, sort of. And you got a key with them. Remember that?
Vaguely, yeah, sort of ish.
Right, handcuffs. No, I don't mean like in a pervert way. Anyway, my mate had some, or like my mate's mate had some handcuffs and he borrowed them. Like, because as you do when you're a kid, oh my God, have you got a knife or like a flick comb? I'll borrow it or whatever. He got this pair of handcuffs. And he put one on my arm, right? And I went, do it loose though, because you haven't got the key, because you didn't borrow the key. And he went, yeah, no worries. And then we were around my house and in my bedroom when I was a kid, he still had some stuffed toys and stuff. So I was like 13 and I still had, I didn't want to play with them. They just existed. He put the other handcuff around the head of Michelangelo, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuffed toy. And then he clipped the handcuff too far. And we'd got PE that afternoon. I tried to go to a PE lesson with a Michelangelo stuffed turtle in a carrier bag that I was holding over
Looking
my
like
hand.
a fucking psychopath.
Well, looking like I was carrying a bag was the idea. And I just, the whole thing was that we could get my mate's dad to get it off later. And I'd just say I forgot my PE kit. So I went, oh, sir, no, I haven't got my PE kit. And he went, there's some PE kit people have left behind. And I'd gone, no, I don't really want to wear that. And he went, well, I don't care what you want to do and what we want to do. What's in that bag? And now I'm dead. So I kamikazed. And I went, everybody knows the PE teacher's a mental case. And I went, sir? And he said, yeah. I went, fuck off. And he went, what? And I went, fuck off. And then he sent me to the headmaster. So I had to go and sit outside the headmaster's office for the afternoon with my hand
Smart move.
in a bag. But I was like, I'm going to pull the pin out of this grenade because I'm fucked. Like, I can't be the guy the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle boy. Yeah. So I'm going to just grenade myself.
And even now, decades later, I would tell you made the right decision there.
It's the perfect decision. Yeah. I'm going there. Fuck you. There's no way my hand is coming out of this bag.
I'll give you my my awkward comment, awkward story. thing where like so I went to Edinburgh a few years ago to do my stand up thing, and I went with a friend of mine who's now sadly passed away, and he and I and this other guy Gary Knightley were staying in a flat together. Then there was a bunch of other like people who, as you'd expect, like a bunch of comedians all going up to Edinburgh together. You do your shows, and then after you've done your shows, you all hang out and you get smashed and so on. One night we're in the bar, and there's this guy who's sort of with a friend of mine, like this girl. He's like a sort of periphery figure, and he's sort of joining in on the conversations and stuff. And anyway, like the girl's talking to another couple of girls, and the conversation gets around to like penis size, and like one of the girls is saying like how, you know, oh, have you had a Savaloy yet, or like, and then one of the other girls is like, oh, have you had like a little mushroom yet, like they, you know, mocking penises, right? And then,
Yeah.
but we're talking about like large penises and small penises and so on. And then this little guy who I met like 2 or 3 times in my fucking life, and like we were not like close sort of bezzy buds. He just like looks up at me and sort of smiles. And he was straight, by the way. Let me just throw that in there. And he just looks up at me and smiles, and then goes like, "What about you? I bet you've got a big dick." Where the fuck has that come from? And he's like, "Hey." I was like, and the next day, like it really weirded me out. It's like, I mean, my threshold is quite high for like saying weird shit. You know, I've literally never said the words that is offensive to me. Like that's never happened. And
No.
also in terms of weirdness, like my threshold.
That is pretty
Yeah,
spectacular.
but like the next day, I went for a coffee with Gary Knightley, and we were hanging out sort of near the I want to say the castle, but actually I don't think it was a castle. I think it was like down the sort of stony, like cobblestone hill that's there. And anyway, we sat there, and I told him about it. I said, "Yeah, do you know that guy that was out last night?" And I said, like, there was this like moment when the girls were talking about penises, like small penis, like small. Like then he looks up at me and he goes like, "Bet you've got a big dick, haven't you?" And I said, like, is it like, am I just being sensitive, or, you know, you might have gathered that this is a common trajectory for me with any conversation where I'm like, am I being sensitive? Am I like self-loathing or second guessing myself? But like, so I said to him, I was like, am I being weird about this, or is that weird? And he was like, I still remember this. He goes, yeah, I mean, look, Aid, I'm a huge fan of like weird moments, just like, you know, you and I are. He's like,
yeah.
I'm a huge fan of people being socially awkward, but I mean, that is incredibly fucking weird. I was like, thank you. Yes, it is, isn't it?
I don't like it though. You know, if you're doing that, you're telling somebody this happened, and they go, perfectly reasonable. You're like, what? No,
Yeah.
it isn't. No, that's not fine. I used to have an assistant who worked with me. You're going to get this too. There's a moment. This doesn't work when you're talking to a younger man. If I'm talking to like a 28-year-old, this falls on its arse. But I go, right, I promise you, there's a moment where everything outside of your relationship is a pain in the arse. And they go, what? And it's like, I promise. I know it sounds really weird, but if like a younger, like 20-year-old is flirting with you, you might not flirting back, you might jokingly, but like if they kind of go too far, you're like, I really just couldn't be asked. Like, it's really complicated. The logistics, I don't care. I just need to fire out a signal to say I am not actually interested. This is a joke. And he was like, anyway, I had this assistant, and she was one of those people who thought that everybody found her attractive, but really just didn't care less. And she was always and she was doing this thing. One of her friends came in and she was going, what do you think John's like sexual preferences are? Like, what does he do in bed? What do you reckon? I reckon it's quite vanilla. John, is it quite vanilla? And I went, Laura. And she went, yeah. I went, shut up, you cunt. And she went, what? And I went, shut up. Just do your fucking work. Honestly, done with the conversation. And she was like, because it was meant to be like a jokey kind of second. I was like, shut the fuck up. I know what you think this is, but it's really not. It's not alluring. I'm not going, I like boobs. I like, what? I don't give a shit. I'm 40. I just want to go the fuck to bed. I want to go home, have a drink. And I really like my wife. It's very handy because she lives in the same house as me. I know what she likes to eat. I'm fine with this.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah. There's a certain there's a niceness, there's
I think there's
a relaxation to being a bit older and to realizing that
I love
actually
it.
none of that shit matters and you don't have to care about it anymore.
I love it. I really like the fact when I see this is a good TikTok thing to talk about. Actually, I've seen recently those fucking guys who make videos and they go.
Yeah, I went down a club the other day and I was talking to these girls and they're like giving me nothing. And then I realised what the thing is. I'm a nice guy. Really nice guy. But they don't want that. They want a wanker. That's what they want.
And you're like, do you know who says they're a nice guy? Wankers. That's who says it. Like, and the idea that you think there's an algorithm to this, to walk into the thing. And I realised I was single when I was about, last time I was single was I was about 23, sorry. But last time I was single was about 23. And I didn't even try. I just couldn't be bothered. Yeah. I was like, John, you coming out of the pool? And I was like, really? Like, if something comes up, great. If it doesn't, yeah, I'm all right with that. It's fine. And have you tried this? Like, they were like, at the time, The Game. Do you remember the book, The Game? It was kind of quite. Yeah,
so I haven't read that, but a friend of mine did.
I haven't. I've had friends
read it. And yeah, so not to sort of like interject on what you were saying, but I've recently started work on this like audio book, God forgive me, but like it's sort of about, it's like a retrospective of my life little funny stories from back in when I was in Maidenhead and then when I moved to London for the first time, and one of the things I've sort of like touched on in there is how when you're a young man, I don't know if this is true of all young men, I suspect it's not, but certainly for me when I was younger, is when you lack a certain level of self-confidence and you constantly question yourself and your worth, specifically not specifically, but mostly around the opposite sex, you start to believe that there's some sort of code you could crack with it. Like, oh, if I had just been there on Thursday, or if I just said this, or if I just said the right words at the right time. And it's only actually when you get to like 40 and we talk about this period of this relaxation of realizing that it doesn't matter, that actually you realize, look, like, first, A, it doesn't fucking matter, but B, actually the obsession over it back in the day and this sort of low self-confidence, it is actually that's your fucking problem right there. It's like
there's this really weird thing about it's it is universal as well, and that's things like clothes. Like when you're in that mindset and you think, oh, if I'd got that, because the fucking world tells you that as well. Oh, you would be fucking her right now. If you were wearing that shirt and those trousers and those shoes, it would have been completely different. And like, I still kind of have this in my head when you've seen it, like recently, especially before I got my hair cut. My hair was as long as it was when I tell you this, as it was recently, where it was like, oh, my mate, he was recently single, I was recently single, and we were going out, and he knocked on the door. And that night, because I used to spend fucking ages doing my hair, whatever. And I opened the door, and I had got the hair shit wax stuff in my hair, and put my fingers in my hair, and done exactly what you've seen, where I've just gone like that. And I opened the door, and he went, "What the fuck is that?" And I went, "I just don't care." And he went, You can't leave the house like that." And I said, "I literally don't give a fuck." And he went, "Yeah, but," I said, "it's just a warning." I said, "If I'm prepared to go out like with my hair like this, if you can't put up with that, I am not the person for you. So I'm just going to go out like this." And he went, "Yeah, but I've got to go out with you." And I went, "No, I get you, but like, just go. He's a dickhead, and that's fine. I couldn't care less. I give up. I don't fucking care anymore."
I admire the sort of the self-assured approach.
But it's not self-assurance. It's literally, as my wife tells people, they'll go. People have said to my wife, like at a dinner party or something, I wish I had John's confidence. And she goes, that's not confidence. And they go, yeah, no, really confident. She goes, no, he just doesn't care. And they go, and she goes, no, that man doesn't care.
But isn't that?
He called a woman a cunt in the middle of Tesco's the other day.
Isn't it? There's a strong overlap there. Like, you have the confidence to not care, whereas I would be like, you know, if I went out. I mean, the irony is that back in the day, I think I was more confident with being a little bit outlandish in like.
But I don't think there is an overlap, because I think the I don't care is all encompassing, because I don't care. There's no confidence, because the confidence would be that I think other people are thinking what I think, which I don't. I just don't care. I realised it just didn't matter. Like, it's so stupid that it's so totally pointless. It's like the
right.
This has come up recently. If you are silent, you are complicit in something, and that is just a fact. Whereas I'm quite happy to say, like, I'll be walking to the post office in the village, and someone beeps at me, and I'll stick my finger up. I'll just stick a finger up, and they'll go and get the car, and I go, "Don't get your car, you cunt, or I will end you." And then they go, "Ooh," and shut the door, and somebody there'll be like 15 people at the bus stop going, "He just said cunt." Like, but it doesn't make any difference. Nothing has changed. It makes no difference. I don't care. He wasn't going to get out of the car. If he'd have got out of the car, he was a little un. He would have got straight back in the car, or he'd have got back limping. I'm not bothered. Fuck off.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, do you like as somebody who doesn't care? Right. We'll have to wrap this up in a minute. So this is literally my final question for you. But as somebody who doesn't care what people think of him, with any outlandish statements and reactions thereof, can you empathize and understand why others, i.e. me, why I would fret and ruminate, and why
Absolutely.
it would, like, it shakes me, like, the idea of what people might think of me in certain situations, like.
But the way I think of it is this, right? What is the coldest you've ever been? Like, when you've been really, really cold?
Emotionally cold to somebody else?
No. Physically cold.
When I was 19, I got incredibly wasted in fabric, and I spent the night in a phone box, and I froze my arse off all night. Right.
So what that did, though, and that's really, really shitty, and you were absolutely freezing. But what it did was it gave you a point of relativity in what is cold. Cold is this. And so every time after that you got cold, you were like, you know, when you like sat in the pub garden and you didn't bring a jacket, you were like, I'm quite cold, but I'm not bus stop high as shit sleeping on the floor cold.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So this is my point, really. Which is not this isn't my ha. I'm just telling you. So I had a really shitty childhood, really, really, really dreadful. So everything after that is a point of relativity, that it isn't as dreadful. So whatever happens is not that. So I can do anything I want, literally anything, and I don't care, because it can never be that bad. I'm not 14. I don't live with my stepmother, who is a psychopath. So, like, there's nothing you're going to do. What are you going to do? So if I stood there and go, kiss my dick, they're not going to go, we're going to send you back in time. So I don't care. Yeah. And my point of relativity, I once had to spend the night on Salisbury Plain in February. And this was some army cadet bullshit. And we were supposed to be trying to teach the young uns how to deal with it. And it was hell on earth. It got to about -11. Like, it wasn't funny. It was actually physically dangerous. And we were there, and I'd been awake for 36 hours, and I fell asleep. And I woke up with frost in my hair. And I remember thinking, this is demented. Like, really, really bad. Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, everything's relative. And I know what shit is, and so I don't care.
That. I understand
I'm fine with everything.
the idea of, like, right, so you've got to, like a pivot point or a reference point that you can then look back and say like, right, well, I know what.
You don't even have to. You do it subconsciously.
But
you just do it.
yeah, I don't know. Like I think back to times I felt really stupid in front of people, or times I felt super self-conscious, and
But I think there are differences there. But I don't like. So if somebody said to me, say I was at an event and somebody said, "We've got nothing. Can you just jump on the stage and do 20 minutes of any old bollocks?" Right? I would happily, any given day, go, "Yeah, no worries. Give us the mic. I'll do 20 minutes." If somebody said, for a laugh, in about 5 minutes, 5 of you are going to do the Macarena, I would not do that ever. There is no money in the world to make me do that. If you said to me, join in with that Keep Fit class, right, and there's 20 people, you're all doing the same thing, I wouldn't do it ever. Ever. I don't. It's just this alien to me. I'm not doing that.
yeah.
Fuck off. So it's not a case of embarrassment because it has, to me, it has no
interesting,
point.
isn't it? Because
So
it's
I'm
like
not doing it.
You've got a genre there almost. Like, so you'll jump on a stage and freestyle, and let's be real, there's a very high risk when you're doing emceeing and like talking, straight off the bat, and that you could look like a tit. That a whole room of people might say like, "Oh, this guy thinks he's funny and he's fucking shit." Like, you like that's a horrible feeling.
Yep.
I know that feeling very, very well. But there's that genre of walking on a stage, and then that versus the gym or the Macarena.
I never do.
Is like
not a gym. I just mean, I don't mind the gym. I would go. I just wouldn't do a workout class in front of never. I'd never do that.
Do you know what? That's weird. Like maybe we have a very similar sort of psychology type in that we're both a bit showy. Like we like doing TikTok. We like being on a stage and. But at the same time, I like going to the gym. I like lifting weights. But then if it's like, sometimes my girlfriend says like, "Do you want to go and do like the spin class with me? Or do you want to go and do like the cycle class, like this, blah, blah, blah." And there's a part of me that's just like, how do I verbalize this to her that makes it sound like it's not that I don't want to do stuff with her. I want to do activities with her, but I fucking don't want to sit in a room where there's like,
My wife is so shy. If you said to her, her worst nightmare would be, "Could you be my maid of honor and could you do a speech at the reception?" Like, she would rather shoot everybody. Like, no problem at all. But she'd do a spin class, what's that, dance fucking bullshit, yoga, whatever. Where I would, I wouldn't even know the bride, and they'd go, "Can you do it?" And I'd go, "Yeah, fuck it. I'll give it 10 minutes. What's your name again?" "Okay, no problem at all. We'll wing it." But I could never.
Have you ever done a best man speech?
Yeah, and weirdly, my best man speech worked brilliantly, and my groom speech was shit. Like I don't know why, but I think I was a bit too cocky.
Different dynamics, aren't they? So if you look at a best man speech, everyone's looking forward. This is what somebody told me before I was due to go up there, and I was all nervous and shitting my tits about whether I was going to die on stage when I'd never done any sort of comedy gig before and so on. So people were like, "Look, mate, people are always looking forward to the best man speech. That's like the highlight of all the speaches and stuff." So
just get it done is the big.
And so when I went up and did it, that was like, without sounding like too much of a fucking bellend about it, that was my sort of foray into doing stand-up, because I thought like, oh, if I can write a thing and it's fun and funny, and it felt a little bit like I was doing stories about like how the groom used to like phone up my fucking voicemail and pretend to be my mum, like tied up in his basement.
That's really good.
And he would like phone, like leave a voicemail where he's doing like both voices, like his voice and my mum's voice. So he would just be like, "Get away from that phone, you fucking bitch!" And then she'd be like, "Oh my god, oh, come quick!" Like, and so I'm like telling all of his friends and family this stuff, and it went down really well. And then I thought like, wow, I can actually like. I mean, I know it's a best man speech, and I know people are looking forward to the best man speech, and it's it's a warm crowd and all that stuff. But it felt like, I could probably do this. This might be fun.
I can even. The weird thing is as well, because as you say, it's written. You can kind of like. I remember writing it out and then thinking, this is a typical me as well, because you've written it out and you maybe were like quite obsessed. I remember I wrote it out and I'd been like for 2 weeks and like getting it all right. And then about 5 minutes before, I went for it in a bin, the whole thing in the bin. I was like, I'm just going to wing it.
Really?
I really did do that as well. Yeah, and the guy getting married was my housemate.
Did you?
And
when you say you threw it all in the bin, did you then, as you were winging it, did you bring?
I did work from it. Yeah, I did. Yeah. I worked from the bit I'd written down. Yeah. Apart from the best joke, which I'll do, the joke that was in the written thing. So he was my housemate, and one day I got up. We both worked, and I got up, and he was sat on the sofa in his pants, and he was supposed to be at work. It was about 9:30, and I didn't start until 10:30, and so I got ready, came downstairs, and he was just sat in his pants watching TV, and I was like, "Dude, you're not going to work?" And he went, "Can't." And I went, "What do you mean can't? He's sick." And he went, "Nah." I went, "Okay, so why the fuck aren't you going to work?" And he went, "I washed all my clothes." And I went, "What do you mean?" And he went, "I washed all of my clothes." And I went, "Right?" He went, "I put them all in, shut the door, press go. I can't do anything for an hour and 10 minutes." Well, that's all the clothes he owned in the world were going around the washing machine, apart from the underpants that he'd got on. That was it. And that was the safe joke, like, because I was trying to think of safe jokes, because he was quite a ladies' man, the guy who got married. So I was being really dicey, like all the really funny stuff I couldn't do, because I was like, he is a man whore. I couldn't do any of that. He did. I can do it with this, actually. I reckon I can get away with this. This will be my last bit of John and Nori's story. He had the mic like that. He had a bit too much to drink, and he went, "Okay, anyway. I would say I've said thanks, everybody." "Yeah, said thanks." Okay. There's my best man, John. He's going to finish me off." Passed it over, and I went that twice. And his dad like lost it completely. Like his dad's front row, and he was like proper Suffolk, big lamb chop sideburns, and he was just going for about 10 minutes, just laughing at the idea of me wanking off his son.
That's a pretty good number. Oops. Pretty good freestyle.
Right, yeah, I think that's enough of a show. I'm going to see my wife.
All right, well, let's wrap this up here. Thank you so much for joining us again. And if anyone wants to catch up with John, he's on TikTok, John Left of the Countryside. I'm going to be releasing a new chapter to my audiobook on Tuesday. The audiobook is called Twattastic Super Cunt. And as I mentioned earlier on in the podcast, it's about my years in Maidenhead. Lots of funny stories involving sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And so that'll be out on Tuesday, and I'll be back next Friday. Hopefully, I've got a couple of really interesting guests. I'm just waiting to formalize and book in. So stay tuned for that. If you wish to stay up to date with like literally the newest episodes of the podcast, then do get onto the Patreon. It's super cheap, and it allows me to continue investing and getting all of my tech in order, and hopefully getting my Skype in sync for next week. Once again, thanks very much to my guest this week, John Left at the Countryside. Catch you all next Friday. Cheerio. Bye now.
Thanks, Aid.